what to do. So where do I start? Around September 2023, 23 am at the time, went clubbing at a local bar where I saw my crush. I had seen her a few times before and thought she, 18F at the time, was stunning, but I never really approached her. This time I decided to go for it. We talked for a bit, and afterward I asked for her number. Fast forward a week, and I had a date set with her at a nice, fancy restaurant in town. We went, had some meals, and it helped that the chef was the brother of a friend of mine, so we got some free appetizers. After the date, we went to a friend's place, had a drink, and then went to my father's house. I was in between apartments. We ended up in my childhood bedroom, sitting on my single bed, talking and watching a movie. After this, we went on a few more dates. She came over a lot because my father's house was just 5 minutes away from her mom's place, where she lived. Fast forward to her birthday. We had been hanging out a lot, and she asked if I wanted to have dinner with her, her best friend, and her best friend's boyfriend to celebrate. We went to a sushi place, and I accidentally referred to her as my girlfriend. She liked the sound of it and started laughing. After dinner, we went back to her place, and I spent the night. By this point, we had already been physically intimate for a while. Around this time, she started attending a church where a friend had invited her. Due to my paranoia from previous relationships, I couldn't believe she was just at church and with friends for times a week. By December, I barely saw her and nearly had to beg for her to hang out. I expressed my concerns to her, and she understood, promising to try to spend more time together. But after 2 weeks, the same issue resurfaced. I went through this for about 2 months until I had an epiphany in February. If going to church means spending more time with her, then I'll just go too. I asked if I could join her, and while she was reluctant at first, she eventually agreed. When I got there, I was truly touched. I was raised in a Christian household. My mom and grandmother were devout believers, and I had been to Sunday school, did my communion, all of it. After that, I started going with her to church twice a week. However, we had an issue. We had been in an intimate relationship before attending church, and the church didn't condone intimacy or relationships within the first 6 months of joining. We had several discussions about this because we were still sleeping together frequently. Aside from that, I had just moved into my new apartment, so we no longer had to stay at my dad's place. She helped me settle in and decorate the apartment, and we talked about the possibility of living together by the end of 2024. In June, we booked a nice hotel trip with a spa and some outdoor activities. Unfortunately, during the trip, we were intimate again, which was an issue because we were trying to save ourselves from marriage. After we returned, she went on vacation with a friend and her friend's boyfriend, the same friends we had dinner with. It bothered me that a woman of God would go to a party island, but I trusted her when she said she didn't drink and just made some friends over 40. When she got back at the end of June, things were good for a few weeks. However, when I went over to her place one time, she told me she didn't want us to sleep together anymore because it always led to SX. Although I was sad about it, I agreed, telling her that spending time together was enough for me. We still ended up having SX one more time, and I felt like we had screwed everything up. I was really trying to make this work. The next day, we spent a fun day together, went swimming, had lunch, and then went back to her place. But when we were there, she got on top of me, and I had to stop her, telling her I was trying to be a good Christian man. We had a bit of an argument, but she eventually got off me. We hung out for the rest of the day, but the dynamic between us started to change. In August, I booked a vacation for myself after a previous trip to Croatia got canceled because I didn't have a valid identity card. I also booked a trip to the zoo for us because she had been asking me to go for months. The day before the zoo trip, I took the morning off to help some people at the church set up for a youth camp. When I got home, I was waiting for her to come over so we could watch movies together, not even sleep together, just enjoy each other's company. However, when she arrived, instead of using the house key I gave her, she rang the bell, which I found odd. She came in, sat down, and told me we needed to have a serious conversation. She handed me a letter and asked if I wanted her to read it or if I wanted to read it myself. I chose to read it. The letter basically said that she didn't like the fact that we had been lying to our friends at church for the past few months about not being in a relationship when we actually were. She joined the church in November and was supposed to be single for 6 months, and I joined in February, meaning I needed to stay single until August, just a few days away. She said that continuing to lie would still be dishonest, so she wanted to break up so we could both focus on God. She hoped that if it was meant to be, we would come back to each other eventually, but she wanted to be friends in the meantime because she didn't like lying, and we were both trying to be good Christians. I asked if this was just a break or a breakup, and she told me it was a breakup. I told her that while we could try to be friends, I didn't think it would work because the dynamic between us had changed. Besides, I'm a simple person. If someone doesn't text me, I won't text them. She assured me we would stay in contact. But after that, the only text I got from her was when she saw me at church and asked if I had enjoyed the lecture. That was the extent of our contact, and it became less frequent, dropping to once every 2 weeks than not at all. She also attended a church conference for an entire week, staying in an Airbnb with a few other girls from the church and one married couple. I went there one day because I was working nearby, but she never reached out to me. I didn't hear from her for 3 days, and then on Sunday night, after I had seen her twice that day, once at church in the morning and once at a festival with friends, I got a text from her around 11 p.m. She asked how I was doing and mentioned she heard I was at the conference the previous Thursday. I responded, but I couldn't help but feel disappointed. After 3 weeks of silence, the best she could do was ask how the conference was. What made it worse was that just a few days earlier, she had ignored my request to take 3 days off in November around her birthday. My plan was to surprise her with a trip to Venice and propose to her. Yet, on that Friday, when I was helping set up the tent for the church youth camp, she suddenly asked if she could come over. It felt like she was picking and choosing when to be involved in my life, and it was starting to wear on me. I started to question everything. During the months we were dating, I did everything I could to be the best boyfriend possible. I gave her as much affection as I could, took her out on fun dates, and never let her pay because I didn't want my girl to have to worry about money. But now she just wanted a break. After all this time, I noticed that at church, she could talk to everyone around me, even other guys, but couldn't come over and talk to me. That really got to me. I texted her, telling her that our communication felt awkward, forced, and not the same, and that I wanted to see some change. But she didn't respond for 3 weeks. Now, it's nearly the end of August, and I'm about to go on vacation. She was supposed to watch my cat while I was gone, but I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with her being in my house anymore. I have a few other people willing to do it. So, Reddit, should I just drop her stuff off, ask for my key back, and move on? Or should I try to be patient and give her a chance? I don't know what to do. Help me.